Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today I want to break down some of the news and recent developments we've gotten regarding the Division universe's timeline and how the roadmap that was laid out for us back in May has pretty much been abandoned. Important distinction though, this does not mean that the various projects that were announced have been cancelled, that's not what I'm saying, but the order of releases that was given to us is not really being stuck to, and many people are questioning and are confused by that, and so I want to break that all down, as well as play devil's advocate a little bit and show how this is a good example of why devs don't always want to produce roadmaps, and I think that's a hard truth that some of us are going to have to swallow. Although in this case it was Ubisoft themselves that put it out, not like it was massive or anyone, but anyway, let's dive in and break it down. So the main component here that I think most of us are aware of is the Division Heartland and how we still have no new information on it. Jeff Keighley's Gamescom's opening night is tomorrow, and I'm going to be watching that very closely and of course doing a video if we get any news about that or the Division 2. But even if there is news, every day that passes by, that opportunity for the game to release in the slot they originally pitched it in shrinks and shrinks. I'm going to put that timeline up on screen now for reference if anyone has forgotten, but when we were pitched the Division universe back in early May, it was indicated that the release order of the announced projects, according to this timeline, would be Red Storm's Heartland, then Massive and UB Bucharest's new Division 2 content, then Division Mobile in 2022, followed by the new novel, and finally the Netflix film. Now let's be clear, it was never confirmed that either Heartland or Division 2 would release this year. Heartland, they said 2021 to 2022, with a deadline of fiscal 2021, which is March of 2022, and Division 2 stuff was optimistically releasing by the end of this year, but with an extension into next year if needed. Now we have gotten tiny tidbits of updates on Division 2's content over the past few months, and those all seem to indicate that they're on track to release by the end of this year, likely in December, which is what I predicted in a previous video. Now again, as I've been saying countless times, if you go by the timeline we were given, then that would indicate that the Division Heartland would release before December of this year, and at this point, is that impossible? No. There's always the opportunity to do an Apex Legends style reveal and release the game, days after announcing it, but I'm just not sure if I see that happening with Heartland. And as I said in a previous video, I feel more and more like they're going to take their time and push that deadline to the very end of release in March of 2022. So that was really the first case of this timeline being broken, and a lot of people were already aware of that situation, but we actually have another new instance of this happening, which is why I'm now pretty much done trusting this roadmap they gave us as a reliable source of information. So a few days back, the announced publisher of the new 2022 Division novel, Aconite Books, released their book schedule for the first few months of 2022. Shout out to Bon Diesel for retweeting this, otherwise I wouldn't have seen it, but you can see in their tweet that February of 2022, it lists Ubisoft Tom Clancy's The Division recruited by Thomas Parrott. And so again, unless there's multiple novels releasing and they chose not to disclose that in the timeline, which would seem weird to me, then this is another instance of them going against that originally slated release schedule for Division Universe content, because unless Division 2's content, Heartland, and Mobile are coming out during or before February of 2022, then this isn't releasing between Mobile and the Netflix movie, right? Another interesting detail is that the title hints at the possibility that this novel deviates from the stated synopsis of the book. In that May announcement, they said this book would be set after the Division 2 and focus on agents trying to secure supply lines. Some have begun to extrapolate and think, doesn't the title Recruitment relate more to the Division's recruitment process or hint at that? And I would say yes, that makes sense, but personally I think it is a little too early to be questioning that type of stuff when it could easily be explained as, I don't know, an agent recruits a civilian group in the book to help out in securing one of those supply lines. We just don't have enough information yet to fully talk about that, but that is the latest development as far as the release schedule and timeline stuff is concerned. And as I said, this is just another example of why that roadmap we were given in May is proving to be less and less accurate. But I do think this is an important moment of reflection for us as a community, because while I see a lot of people getting upset over the lack of news and the overall failure on Ubisoft's part to follow this timeline, it just reminds me of the constant struggle kind of between the fan and the developer. I think any long-term Division fan can tell you that Massive and Ubisoft's PR are always conservative. They always are hesitant to give us too much info about what's coming in the future or give too detailed of a roadmap, and as fans, that leaves us always being pretty frustrated. We want to know as much as we can. We want to know what's coming and when, what's being planned and worked on, yada yada. But a lot of the time, and as we're seeing play out now, developers don't always want to give roadmaps, despite their personal desires to keep the fans informed and satisfied. And that's simply because until you can reach a certain stage of development, whether it be on a full game or an update or etc., things can change. Certain aspects can be upgraded, downgraded, expanded upon, reworked, or removed altogether. We've seen Yannick say a similar statement throughout the past few months when asked why we haven't seen more info about Div 2's coming update. And so while I do feel like we needed something, back when this timeline was announced. If you remember back then, that was after the Star Wars news, so a lot of people were just very down about Division's future in general, and we'd only gotten a vague idea of what was to come. So certainly we needed the Division Universe announcement just for a little boost of hope, but ultimately I think that this is a good example of why it's not always fully beneficial to release as long-term of a roadmap as they did. Because if some or many of these projects are still far enough off that the content and timetables can change, then there's nothing stopping what's happening right now, which is that some project states are being moved around. Some, like the novel, are seemingly releasing sooner than expected, whereas others are being pushed back, like Heartland. And at the same time, we feel as though we're overdue for info on Division 2's update if it is indeed releasing this year, but we are simply unaware of so many critical factors. Maybe the update is going to be smaller than we think, or bigger, and that plays into the marketing campaign. Maybe it really is delayed until next spring, or maybe the content is so groundbreaking and secretive that it's all being kept very tight-lipped. We just literally don't know. And so if nothing else, I think it's an important time for us to recognize this current situation and hopefully can learn to empathize a bit with the publisher and developer's point of view for why it's not always easy or beneficial to relay your long-term plans when a lot of factors could disrupt those plans, whether it's development roadblocks, circumstances like the pandemic, or who knows what else. Because at the end of the day, all we can try and do is be patient while we wait for these developers to feel confident enough in their product to finally show us what they've been working on. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you can be updated every time I upload. Let me know your thoughts on this ongoing Division Universe timeline story. Can you see a little bit of Ubisoft's position and balancing between appeasing the fan base and delivering the product, or do you think we're a little bit more entitled to a definitive roadmap? I'm certainly curious what everyone's thoughts on this are, and I'm very curious what news we may get at Gamescom over the next few days. As I said, tomorrow day or night, depending on where you are, is the opening night show hosted by Jeff Keighley, and he's teased a variety of games that will be showcased, so we can only hope that either there or during the main show we might get a teaser or a larger announcement for Heartland or Division 2's new update, so surely you can expect updates here on the channel when or if we get them. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and until the next one, guys, RogueGold out.